Today we're gonna be analyzing the Aq'ab'al, the 13 Ascending Fire Trecena. This is the Trecena that talks about the big sacrifice we do to achieve power. In other words, can be our biggest commitment. Hachayo Nohel, hello everyone and welcome back to the Maya the Keeper. Today we're back for another Trecena analysis. And this is our fourth video of the series. So I would love to know in the comments if you have been following the Maya calendar along with my videos. How is your experience going? Has it been easy to follow? I would love to hear your feedback there in the comments. And if you're just tuning in and don't know anything about NAWALs or Trecenas, I have a dedicated video talking about that, so you can click here in the card to watch it. The Aq'ab'al, the 13 complementary Trecena just wrapped up. That was the Trecena that we spoke about, that marked the restart of the time, the restart of the cycle in the Chorkir. Is the Trecena of the big complementary actions, combining the old with the new to create something unique. We spoke about letting things go, letting all those emotions that were accumulated or the stuff that didn't work go, so we can start anew. Today we begin the Aq'ab'al, the 13 Ascending Fire Trecena. This is a Trecena that we talk about the big sacrifice we do to achieve power. It's the big payments, the big commitment that we gotta do for the things we want to achieve in these next 260 days. So this is gonna be the Trecena of this big fire we're gonna make in order to commit into something. Tor represents when we have to sacrifice everything in order to achieve. For example, if you want to buy a house but you don't have all the money to pay straight away, so you're gonna have to do a mortgage and start paying little by little. So it can be a long payment, it can cost you a lot, it can put you into trouble, but after everything it's yours. So it was your Tor, so your sacrifice to achieve something you wanted for yourself. That's what the Tor Trecena talks about. So making this big commitment in order to achieve something. Tor is the now related to the blood because it's connected to our vital energy. So when we talk about the things we are sacrificing, the things that we have the most precious that keep us alive is our vital energy. This is the Trecena that is going to be really good, like if we plan stuff before trying to simply just see what the wind can bring. Because the better we are organized, to see the stuff we gotta do, we are able to set more concrete targets and avoid being burned by the fire later or something, like we wouldn't be able to do it anyways. So the last time we saw Tor was in Aq'ab'al, 6 Ascending Fire in the past Trecena, where we spoke about pondering the sacrifices that we committed, but we weren't able to do it for whatever reason. So we paid for letting things go in the past. So in this Trecena, it's going to be the time for us to set these new commitments we want to achieve. Now we know what we weren't capable to do in the past Trecena, so we're going to have more knowledge, more experience to do it better this time. So we're gonna know like what's the price of every single sacrifice. So now we probably know better of how we can manage our time in order to make everything flow in a natural way. So that's one of the things we're gonna be talking about here in this Trecena. And we begin this Trecena with NAWAL, one thought or one knowledge. Now one is the now of the fresh new beginnings or the fresh new start. And now NAWAL is the now of the thinking process, the plans, the organization. So one NAWAL, we talk about the new plans. Now that we let everything go in the past Trecena, now we start to make these new plans of things we want to achieve. So as we spoke about, that's gonna be our biggest sacrifice, the things we want to commit for the next 260 days. So the better we are able to plan, to organize stuff, to see the steps are required to achieve this, the easier it becomes for us to achieve that. So and dodge all the problems that we let in the past cycle that made us not to concrete those plans we made. So this is a perfect day to start putting everything on the paper, see where everything fits. So using the knowledge you accumulated from your experience in the past cycle to do everything differently, to know where everything went wrong and now how you can do it better. So it's a perfect day to start planning fine stuff, start making decisions of what you want to achieve. NAWAL is also the NAWAL of obsession and overthinking. Depending on how the past Trecena went for you, one NAWAL can be the new inflammation that obsession can bring, of the overthinking about stuff you don't want to let go can bring, all this confusion with emotions. And everything can be starting by this mental stress. So be aware of that and try to make these new plans easy. If you weren't able to let things go, at least try to free your mind to make things go easier. Because if we start with this inflammation, when you get to the accumulation in Tor, can be the biggest pain. Because Tor can also represent, when the fire burns us. So keep that in mind to start things clean in this Trecena to avoid getting hurt at the end. And then we move to Tijax, to cut. Now 2 is the now of the retraction, the now of taking one step back. And now Tijax is the now of the incision, is the now of the words that heal and the words that hurt. It's how we use our communication. So Tijax is going to be taking one step back of retract to heal. If there is something that happened in the past Trecena you weren't able to cut, now Tijax can do that rough incision so you can start leading with what you have in the present to cut what it doesn't serve you anymore. Or you can use this now for a self-healing. If you felt like hurt or felt disappointed in the past Trecena, Tijax is now for you to go back to calculate the stuff that you need, do some self-healing. And also could be an hour where you can look back of the plans you made in 1 hour, so you can filter those ideas to see what can continue with the plan and what you can just cut off. And then we move to Oshib Kawuq, 3 sheet lightning. Now Oshib is the now of the water opening the path, and Kawuq is the now of the deep intuition, the sudden light that brightens everything up, that helps you see things clearer for a moment. So 3 Kawuq is going to be the now of opening the path for the light. As we are talking this Tor Trecena, we are lighting up this huge fire, this fire that is going to ascend, is when we start seeing this light that the fire is going to provide. It's going to be opening the path for having these deep insights that can add to this plan that we are building, starting seeing things clearer by this moment. It also talks about communicating. It can be the opening the path for starting communicating once we see everything brightens up. Of course, the more we are able to direct where we want to see this light, if we start planning or not, the easier it becomes for us to see the light on a specific stuff we want to achieve. And then we move to Junajpu for Conqueror Sun. Now Kahib is the now of the stationary water. It can be the water that is slowly getting strength, just like in the well, or can be the water that is just simply stagnant in a place. And Junajpu is the now of the Conqueror Sun, is the now of the glow. Is the now that follows the metaphor of the sea that goes to the underground and needs to rise up to overcome darkness, to rise up as a flower, to bring out the beauty and the shine to the world. So Kahib Junajpu is going to be the now of the establishment of the glow. It can be a moment in the Trecena where you can sit down and see how you can spark things up, where it's going to be the beauty inside the plants. But we talk about just keep things in balance, things in a certain way that we can control. Just like the beginning of the Trecena, when we start making these new plans, we want to avoid overthinking too much to keep things in balance, for you to buy a battle that you are able to fight this time. And of course, to avoid being stagnant with your fears, with your insecurities. Sometimes it's easy to make plans to see how beautifully they can work on paper, but of course you're going to be having to start putting things into action. So Junajpu is the now for us to calculate the battle for avoiding getting stuck with the fears of starting, the fears of succeeding. So that's something that we need to keep in mind in Kahib Junajpu. And then we move to Hob Imox 5 water. Now 5 is the now of the water with no containment. We talk about the rough. And now Imox is the now of the flow of water. Like Imox is the injection of force, and just like the water is going to be giving life to the seeds, it's going to be the element. But it can be too much strength that it's hard to control. That's why Imox is also connected with the left hand, or to talk about imprecisions. So it's a lot of force, but you don't have too much precision to apply with Imox. So Hob Imox can be the day in the Trecena where things can go sideways. The more we are able to keep things into balance, the less likely things can go out of balance, can go out of control. Of course, everything can happen, some things we didn't plan, some things that just come up out of the sudden. You can add into this Imox of things we have to handle. But the better we are able to go organized by that, less likely they are able to destroy the stuff that we are building. But Imox can also work in a positive way. If we just engage with this flow of Imox, it can speed things up. Just like we were talking about making this big fire at the end of this Trecena. So Imox can be when you just throw alcohol in the fire to speed up the growth of the fire. But as I told you, it can be dangerous. You can end up burning yourself. That's why Imox can be the now that can make things go sideways in the Trecena, and you need to be careful in how we're gonna flow with Imox. And then we move to Aq'ab'al 6 wind. Now 6 is a now of the caves. We talk about where we're going to ponder. We talk about the dry caves, where we're gonna put things into perspective. We're gonna weigh something, we're gonna meditate about something. And Yik is about the insufflation of life, that strong push to move things forward. So now it's time to ponder what we really want to achieve, because the wind's gonna be the element that can make the fire go up. Yik is also the now of the enthusiasm. Sometimes we can be burned ourselves because of our own enthusiasm. Sometimes the enthusiasms go out of the rational stuff or the things we are really able to achieve. So you need to put that on a scale to see if you are not too much enthusiastic about something, momentarily excited. So that's the stuff that we need to ponder in 6 Yik, because that's gonna be the fuel that's gonna raise the fire up. So it's a day to think well about the direction you want to push things forward. And also to put in a scale the stuff that can make you angry, the stuff that can make you explode if things go out of control. And that's what you want to avoid now Yik. And then we move to Aq'ab'al 7 clarity. 7 is the climax of the Trecena, is the hot lava, is the hottest part. And Aq'ab'al is the now of bringing things out of the darkness into the light. We talk about clarifying stuff or doing like a deeper research. So 7 Aq'ab'al is going to be talking about this intense clarity. It's going to be talking about this intense clarity that the fire can provoke. You don't want too much light to be blind, but you want to keep everything into the clarity. So it can be a moment in the Trecena where you can see everything clearer. Everything we start planifying on 1 hour, you can already see clear like what you gotta do, what's gonna cost you. So you can avoid being complaining about that. If there is something that is still in the dark, we can use Aq'ab'al just to shine some light into that, to clarify even more before we make this big commitment on Oshla-Hutor. And then we move to Aq'ab'al 8, burning into ashes or descending fire. Now 8 is the now of the return. We talk about the second part of the Trecena, is the second beginning, but a beginning where we are more prepared. And now Aq'ab'al, we talk about the descending fire, the sacrifices that we do to sustain something or to give life to the other. So now that we start building our plan in 1 hour, clarifying then along the Trecena, Now you probably know what to do, and now it's time to return with the tasks, which is what the NAWAL talks about. The tasks that we gotta do to keep the heat, to keep everything warm, to keep the plan warm of the stuff that we want to commit at the end of the Trecena. See what kind of depths we are getting ourselves into when we choose to continue on that plan. So 8K is going to be the return of this task, the return of the sacrifice you gotta do to keep things warm, to keep the fire burning. But also we can talk about managing the energy we put on the stuff. As cat is also the bag we associate with the materials we're gonna use to help on our journey. If on a walk we made so many things, we overthink too much, maybe on cat your heavy is very heavy. So it can be a day for you to light up your bag, to manage well the energy you're gonna apply into the stuff you wanna achieve, and to keep things light, avoid being burnt out. And then we move to Belaer, Kame, 9 Stellar Serpent. Now 9 is the now of the underground waters, the underground rivers. We talk about the things that are hidden from sight. And now Kame is the now of the announcement of changes, the intervention, is the fury in nature. So after coming back with the task and seeing what kind of energy is going to be consuming us, now it's time for us to make the right intervention for not letting the consumption of energy drain ourselves, for ended up getting hurt. So it's time for using our wisdom to manage the time correctly, to do this inner intervention on us. If you weren't able to cut this stuff in the beginning of the Trecena on Tijax, Belaer Kame is the now for you to start acknowledging the intervention you gotta do. If you're not being able to follow everything as you wanted to, start to think about what kind of intervention you need to do in order to keep things more under control. So it's gonna be time for using this wisdom of the NAWAL Kame. Otherwise can be that inner poison. If something started as an inflammation, NAWAL Kame can be the gestation of something that can corrupt you or can cause you pain along. Especially we can talk about mental stress in this Trecena. And then we move to Kame, 10 ancestors. Now 10 is the metaphor of the lake, that where many rivers meet in one single place. We talk about everything coming together. And now Kame is a now of the spirit of the ancestors. The spirit of the ancestors that are floating with the wind, that we're listening to the sings of birds, into the sounds of nature whenever we go for a walk, or when we do the ceremonies to honor our deceased ones, the ones that were important for us. So we talk about the now of support. So Kame is the convergence of support. It can be talk either getting the support from other people that can help you with the plan that you are building. Remember, we don't need to do everything, by ourselves. Now 10 talks about this community work. We receive support, we offer support in the way we need, in a way that we can live in harmony with society. But it can also talk about if you need the support from the ancestors, if you want to make the ceremony to honor them, to ask their light of guidance on how to proceed with something. What you want to avoid in Kame, the Kame can be the convergence of tears when we start ignoring everything around us or feel the rejection for some people. So Kame can talk about this convergence of suffering, and that's what you want to avoid. And you want to keep things light in this Trecena that is very demanding. 10 Kame is this light day where you can strengthen your connection with your ancestors by making the ceremonies to honor them. But also can be a day where you can look out for help, look out for support for other people to start building your plan. And then we move to Aq'ab'al, 11 deer. 11 follows the metaphor of the still water, the water that doesn't have a single direction to go, but not a lot of strength. So we talk about expanding or diluting something. And Ker is the now of the altar, is the now of the spiritual strength. So Aq'ab'al, we can talk about expanding our spiritual strength. If in this Trecena we talk about the fire, the ceremony, the payment, During the ceremonies are the place where you can do this communication to strengthen our spirit, to lift up. So we talk about expanding this spiritual strength in Care to get more courage to overcome the battles we need to plan in the first part of the Trecena. So Care can be where you can draw on the strength you need to handle the sacrifice you want to put yourself into. What you want to avoid is to be reluctant in Care. If you weren't able to open up the path, you are stagnant with our insecurities, Care can be the one that will not move, will be stagnant, we won't make 11 do its work. So that's what you want to avoid in Care, just to be too lazy as well. And then we move to Aq'ab'al, 12 seed. Now 12, we talk about the hidden balance of the Trecena, is the repercussion. When the water breaks the dam, and then we have like this extra water just flowing, 12 is going to be the repercussion of that, something that you cannot expect. In the beginning of the Trecena, we spoke about this rough flow of water going on that's kind of hard to control. If you're not able to manage, to keep everything under our own control, the water can rotten the seed right now, which we can talk in NAWAL. We talk about the potential of something to germinate, potential of giving life into something to make the trees growing. But if you don't control the water we're applying to that, like the efforts we're going to be putting into the seed, we can make the seed rotten and destroy it completely. And that's what you want to avoid, this repercussion when you arrive into Aq'ab'al. But if we are following everything in the right way, we are building our plan, we are starting to see our plans clearer, we are managing the energy we are putting into stuff, you can represent the extra potential of something to come into life. So it's going to be the moment where you can already see everything that you are building in this Trecena. And then we move to the last day of the Trecena for the ruler Oshlahu Tor, 13 ascending fire. Now 13 is the number of the accumulation. We talk metaphorically about the volcano that's going to accumulate the lava. We talk about the ocean for the biggest, the oldest. And Tor is the ascending fire, the sacrifices that we do to achieve power. Tor is a very demanding now, just like the ascending fire. It needs more fuel to be added into it to keep the fire growing. If you are not managed to control how much we're going to be giving that to achieve something, we can end up being hurt because we are giving up our vital energy to consume something. Just like when we become addicted to work, you had your plan set, or maybe because you have a business, or even if you are just dedicated to spiritual purposes or making the ceremonies, everything has a price. There is nothing that goes easier in any other area. We need to know how to learn how to keep things under our control, to walk a healthy path. Because when we start just getting this mental stress, we're starting just getting too much worried about stuff, now Tor will take that also as a fuel, and also you consume your health. That's why it's now connected with sickness, like when sickness are already present in your body. That's why now Tor has this connection with hospitals as well. But in here, what we want to do is just to make this big commitment. After flowing through all these nows in this Trecena, we kind of have a glimpse of the sacrifice that we need to make in order to achieve this plan we began. So now we can use this fire to ascend, to clarify everything, to give the bright light. So that's when we make our big commitment, when we speak to the fire, the things we are compromising ourselves to achieve. But we need to be always very careful, to be conscious about the things we are able to provide. And that was it for today's analysis. I hope you are enjoying this series of Trecena analysis that I have been making. And if you feel that this is adding some value to your life, is helping you some way, please don't forget to leave your thumbs up, because it's a small click for you and it's a great thing for us. And if you're not subscribed and feel that you earn your trust, please consider subscribe and clicking the bell button to receive notifications every time I post a new video. I wish you all a great Trecena ahead, and I see you in my next video.